out the ENT class through some of my friends. Went to a ride along, took the class, and then I was kind of like, well, here I am.
Getting to meet people that you've helped previously and seeing them on the street, or they've come by the station to say hello and thank you. It's just a rewarding experience. I would do it all over.
Searching for an unforgettable summer for your child? At Old Nell's Farm, campers spend days riding horses, learning horsemanship, caring for animals, making new friends, and enjoying real farm adventures. From beginners to horse lovers, our small camps offer a fun, safe, hands-on experience they'll talk about all year. Old Nell's Farm, DeVille, Louisiana. Call 318-794-9533 to register. Spots are limited.
Hi, this is Pastor Roger L. Green Sr., pastor of the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. We're welcoming you to our worship services on Sunday morning. Sunday school begin at 8 a.m. Worship services begin at 9 a.m. Come and grow with us, a place of faith, family, and fellowship. We would love to have you. Come see us Sunday morning. We'll see you there.
Hey, did you know Long's Products is a family-owned janitorial supply with mops, brooms, trash bags, and they even have food service disposables, carry-out plates, and to-goes? Check us out.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of UrbanCast Let's Talk. I'm your host, Jack, and this community conversation is powered by silver sponsor Arcadian Ambulance. As always, UrbanCast is committed to giving voters an opportunity to hear directly from those seeking public offices. Every known candidate in this race has been invited to participate. Whether they've accepted or declined is entirely their decision. We believe elections are about giving voters the opportunity to hear directly from every candidate before casting their ballot. And tonight we're talking about the Louisiana Congressional District number 5, and we're being joined tonight by Austin Magee, a candidate for Louisiana's 5th Congressional District. Austin, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What motivated you to run for Congress and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, Mr. Jack, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the spot that I can get on here and talk to the voters. And like you said, let everybody just see every candidate and actually understand, what, I'm sorry, I have somebody trying to call me. They're saying they can't see me on here. They're texting me. They're blowing my phone up saying they can't see me. So that may have been from earlier. I'm going to silence.
That may have been. Just go ahead and answer them. We're in the cyber world.
See if they can see me or not, or if something's
wrong.
They
can. I can tell they can see. They can actually see you now.
So it's fixed, because that's what they were saying. I saw a stream of text messages. They were saying that nobody could see me on here. I'm just going to turn my phone off for now. I'm just going to.
No, leave your phone on. Just put it on this do not disturb so you can answer their questions just in case.
I'm sorry. Anyway, I appreciate you having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the voters and show them that, give them an opportunity to see every candidate, because I think that's important, because, really, if we're only voting by whose name we've seen on TV the most, or which billboard we've seen the biggest billboard, you're not necessarily going to get the best candidate. So that's kind of what I'm doing. That's why I'm running. I genuinely believe that we don't have representation at any level of government, really, but especially in Washington. I feel like we have people, we're not sending the best and brightest to do this job. We're not sending the people who are going to make the best decisions for us, that represent decisions that we would make. And we're the people who are supposed to be represented by them. So that's what I want to be. I want to be a representative for the people, listen to my constituents, make the right decisions, and just that's what I want to do. I want to be a listening ear. I may not know everything. I'm a regular guy. I'm somebody just like me and you. I'm not a lawyer or a millionaire. I don't have a lot of money. I'm very blue collar. I'm a business owner, family man. I got 2 kids, and I'm looking at the direction our country's headed and our government, and the way that I don't feel like we have that representation, and I'm going to give it to us. If y'all vote me in, I'm going to listen to the people. I'm going to make sure that we're headed on what I see and what I can gather from my constituents, listening to them and talking to them, and actually doing my part to be that listening ear. What I can see is the best decision for us going forward. And that's really it. It's not something I want to do. This isn't my idea of a fun job. I can't think of many things I would rather not do than go to Washington, D.C. But I'm going to be honest with you. I just feel so compelled and such a burden put on me just by the Lord that we need good people who, are really going to do the right thing. And I don't feel like we have that. I feel like most people in Congress are compromised in some way, or they're just not good people, or they're in it for their own benefit and not to serve the people. So that's what I want to do.
Why you talk about, why do you think this is the right time right now for you to go to Washington, and how do you describe your political philosophy?
Well, what I think is, I really think there's a lot of things we have headed our way that are really going to make it to where it's even harder for candidates like myself to do this. I think if we don't have some ordinary people who just feel the call to serve and do the right thing, step up and do this, I feel like in the next election cycle, the next congressional election cycle, even a couple of years from now, I feel like you're really not going to have the same options. There's going to be even more boundaries to prohibit us from doing this, as far as the way that things are going in the media, the way that things are going with AI being used in political ads, with the way that power is being structured and consolidated in certain areas. I feel like we're really at a point where if we don't get some good people in, we're never going to be able to do it, because the swamp is big, the swamp is deep, and they're doing everything they can to protect themselves. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to do it now. I think this is our last shot to really elect a true outsider. I don't think we're going to have that opportunity later on if we wait much longer. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely not good timing for me. And I'm definitely making a lot of sacrifices to be able to do this. As far as on my family, my business, on every front, I'm making sacrifices to do this. And like I said, it's not exactly my idea of a great job. I don't want to be in it for the long haul. I stand on term limits. I'm going to serve 2 terms if I'm elected, and I will serve no more. I've signed a term limits pledge that we'll have 2 terms for, well, I'm sorry, I'm saying 2 terms, but the pledge says 3 terms for House and 2 terms for Senate. But regardless, the way that my political philosophy is exactly what our founders wanted it to be: freedom and liberty for all. I want to have a government that represents the people like it's supposed to be, as a republic, where we're truly represented by people that have our best interests at heart and are listening to us. And we're just not seeing that. So I'm a conservative, but I listen to everybody. I haven't met very many people I can't get along with. There may be some fringe people that I just can't get along with at all. But as far as coming up with a solution, I feel like if I sit down and talk with anybody, we can find middle ground. Mm-hmm. And really, the majority of issues that this country has, I think 90% of people agree on. There's that small, like 10, 20% of issues that, and they're the issues they rub in our face, the mainstream media, and the elected officials we have now, they rub the issues that are divisive in our face, and they flaunt that, and they talk about the divisive issues, so that we stay fighting each other, and we never focus on the real issues that most Americans agree on, like term limits we just talked about. I said something about that. 80% of America wants term limits, and we can't see that get passed. I think the most recent attempt was, Ralph Norman introduced a bill, and it stalled in committee. It's never going to see the light of day, likely. And it's been done over and over again. We've seen it. And even though 80% of America wants it, because it would give us better representation, and nobody in office should want to just retire there. It shouldn't be a nursing home, but it stays stalled in committee. It never makes it out for even a floor vote. That's shameful. When that many Americans agree, Democrats and Republicans, hey, we want this, we should be working on that. That's the issue. So that's what I want to do is really focus on the things that we all can agree on and no need to improve. Like you said, I think when you shared this out, you mentioned some of the topics like healthcare, infrastructure, things like that. Like we can all agree those are problems in our country, the national debt, left, right, and center. And instead we have some of the more divisive like social issues and things pushed. And I definitely have a stance on a lot of those. You know, I'm very conservative when it comes to things like gun rights, abortion, freedom of speech, all those things. Like I'm very conservative, but there's a lot of issues we can work on together as Americans to make this country better. And I'm willing to listen to everybody and hear their stance.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when we find that 2% of stuff that's just so divisive, and we got 98% over there. We could get something done, and we end up
like,
not getting.
Why aren't we doing it? You know, like what's going on? You people are elected. You work for us. We're paying you. You're making good money. You're living life in the lap of luxury. You got a Cadillac health plan, and you can't do the one thing that we all agree on. Like, come on,
right.
Wow. It's ridiculous.
Yep. What experience do you bring to the table that qualify you, if there's such a thing, and prepare you for Congress?
This is one of my favorite questions to answer because I'm going to tell you, I can do three things. I can read, write, and do math. And I can do all three of those things pretty well. I hate to be a braggart. I don't want to be a braggart, but it comes across that way, I realize, but I'm kind of trying to get over it. I may sound like a redneck, but I'm well written. I'm well read. I am articulate in on paper, especially, even if I don't sound like it talking to me. It's just my accent and where we live. I'm sorry, guys. But I did go to college. I am like graduated with honors. I got my bachelor's degree in 3 years by taking on additional classes. I'm somebody who doesn't have to study a lot. I don't think I ever studied. I worked the whole time through college, made it out, like I said, ahead of time while working with honors and all that. And most of the time I was on president's or dean's list. So I can, as far as the book work, I've got it. I'm a business owner, so I know what it takes to run a business. I know what it takes to, like we said, basic math. Most of our representatives, when you take those three things, read, write, do math, I tell you, they can't do it because they pass bills that go directly against our freedoms. And they obviously can't do math because just look at our debt. So just those things, it's like, I think I could do a heck of a lot better job than some of the people we're putting in. I mean, look at Mitch McConnell. He's dead, and they're all telling us that he's doing a great job. So if somebody who's a vegetable can do it, I think I can do it. Yeah. I'm just saying, we the bar is pretty low, and I think I clear it. So
I hear you. You also support banning members from Congress from trading stocks. Why do you think?
Absolutely. And look, I don't have any stocks. I don't have a single stock, and I'm not going to ever. As far as serving in government, I'm not going to have any. I will promise y'all that you'll never see Austin Magee trading a single stock. There's no reason for it. And they say, oh, well, there's no reason they can't participate in the economy. No, if you want to trade stocks, go get a different job. If you want to be a member of Congress, don't trade stocks. It's that simple. You're getting paid $174,000 a year plus other perks and benefits. There's no reason for you need to trade stocks while the rest of America is struggling. That is insane to me that we can't get everybody behind that. And it's a direct violation as far as conflict of interest. It just doesn't make sense for us to let that happen. That should have been taken care of a long time ago, and we're seeing blatant disregard for it.
And you also mentioned financial transparency, accountability. How would you?
Absolutely. Your kids shouldn't be able to trade stocks that you're telling them about, whispering in their ear, your family members. I mean, it should all be very open. I think that there's just a few things that are really going to put this government back in the hands of the people. And that's term limits and the financial visibility, and then the stock trading ban. Those three things: stock trading ban, financial visibility, and term limits will put this government back in the hands of the people, because that's what it boils down to is we got to get the money out of politics. And we had the recent Supreme Court decision with to do with PACs, and it's like, really, I feel like Citizens United needs to be overturned, because it's really crazy to me that you can spend an unlimited amount of money on a political campaign, because at that point you can just buy the spot, and we're seeing that these seats are pretty valuable.
Right. They have to be when you look at the sheer amount of money that was spent in the primaries alone. You just in here in Louisiana, when you look at what the campaign spent, it's a lot of money.
I'm the poorest man in the race.
I hear you. You talk about balancing the federal budget and reducing spending. Where should these cuts begin, man? How do we, if we want to try to put ourselves on a trajectory to balance the budget, where should we begin?
The very first thing I'll tell you, Mr. Jack, the very first thing we need to do is cut every bit of foreign aid, because there's no reason for us to be spending the wild amount of money we do on other countries when we don't have the money to spend. We don't have that money to spend. We're printing more money for them. We're out. We're tapped out. We're spending it on a credit card, so to speak, and they can get their credit card out too. They can get their credit card out just as easy as we can. That's kind of like if you're out of money and your buddy's out of money, and your buddy comes to you, hey man, I need some money. So you spend some money on your credit card and give him some cash, and then he's that's silly. Tell him, hey, you go swipe your credit card. It just doesn't make any sense to me, especially we don't need, that's not our role in the world. We just need to focus on us. We have so many problems at home. We need to focus on America. And I'm truly America first. A lot of people will say that, America first, but I am America first. I don't think anybody should be getting any foreign aid until we fix the problems that we have right here on the home front, because there's a lot of them. We have a lot of issues.
Yeah. When you look at the sheer amount of poverty, especially within the district that you are gearing up to represent, you look at the original footprint prior to it. I would say prior to us creating the Congressional 6, the way it just was, the Louisiana 5th was like the 12th poorest district in the country. You know what I mean? Not just and that suggests that we have a lot of people who are impacted by poverty and things of that nature. And how do we begin to solve these problems right here at home?
Well, like we just said, the first thing is we got to stop diluting our currency, because every time we send more money to somebody else, a lot of times to people that hate us, I mean, we're spending millions of dollars a week on the Taliban. We're sending them money, and it's like when we're diluting our currency in that way, it makes my money and your money worth a lot less. That's just a basic fact of it. There's other things that come into play with that. I mean, the economy, it's multifaceted, how you improve it in general. There's things like the tariffs. Like I do like tariffs. I think when they're used properly, I don't think they've been implemented properly, but I think when implemented properly, they're good for us. Like you see the decline in manufacturing and jobs here. And we can see that in our district as well. We're very rural. We're mostly, farming and forestry. So you can see where tariffs would make a difference, but only when they're used the right way. Obviously we can't put tariffs on things like bananas and things like that we can't make, but we do need to stimulate production domestically. That's important to have actual independence in some senses, especially with like energy, with oil production and natural gas, things like that. Like we're seeing that now where a global choke point can affect us, and we need to be independent in those terms. And it also stimulates our economy and creates jobs. But the biggest thing is the fact that we have this fiat currency that's not tied to anything, and it's being manipulated in ways that really benefit everybody except for the very bottom for us, for the middle class and lower class, where we're not privy to the same deals and things that are going on, and we're just watching. If we have some savings in the bank, every day it's worth less money if it just sits there, the American dollar is going down just due to the fact that we're increasing supply, and that's dilution. It's dilution of currency, and that's what we're seeing. That's what's caused a lot of the inflation we have. I mean, you see it during COVID. We did so much to our money supply as far as just creating more money supply, and we're still doing it. We still haven't cut spending. Spending levels are just as high as they've ever been, and that's frustrating when we thought we were going to get different.
Right. Oh, so what policies do you think, if implemented, could quickly bring down the cost of living for the average American? So what are some of those things that we can do real quick, right off the bat, that could possibly?
So as far as quickly, there's not really anything that's good quickly. If there's a policy that's going to bring costs down quickly, then it's probably not good for the long term. And that's the bad thing about it is we have a long history in this country of making the wrong decision. So it's going to take time. It's going to be painful. It's kind of like if I dug myself into a lot of debt, or you dug yourself into a lot of debt, and then you're trying to get out of it. If you're trying to get out of a financial hole, you're not going to flip a magic switch, because if it was there, you would have already done it. There's no quick solution that's just going to turn things around and tomorrow everything's more affordable. Things have gone up across the board. Everything's less affordable than it was even a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. With Democratic or Republican presidencies, we've still seen cost increases. I can look at receipts and show you, and they tell us inflation's at this percent or that percent. You look at the things that matter that we're actually having to spend our money on. I can show you receipts where things have doubled pretty quickly. So as far as getting those costs down quickly, I don't know if there's a solution. I think the real solution at this point, we're kind of stuck with that, but we have to bring wages up. The wages of Americans have to rise to be able to catch up to what things now cost. We've done things, and I say this as a Republican. I think it's silly that the minimum wage is still at $7 and whatever. I don't know anybody that actually makes that. I see my Republican primary opponents. I see they all vote to keep it how it is, and it's like, does anybody actually even pay that? Like, I think minimum wage these days is more like $10 or better from what I just see people paying. And it's like,
well, look, I might need to hear that again, because that is kind of different coming from a Republican to say, hey,
absolutely.
I think it's time.
What is $7? Like, come on, like that's crazy. I'm a business owner. Like, I'm not going to pay somebody that amount. That's insulting to even a kid. Yeah. I wouldn't pay my 5-year-old that. Like, that's man, it's kind of gross.
Right.
To think that would cover anybody's, even if you say, oh, these jobs are meant for high schoolers or whatever, that doesn't cover the cost of fuel to hardly get anywhere and do anything. It's just, It's crazy. So wages have to come up. If we had stayed on the gold standard, wages would be more like $80 an hour. But we have this fiat currency, like I said, that's been diluted and manipulated by bankers and bureaucrats. And it's been detrimental to the lower and middle class, and really to all of us at the end of the day. But we have to get that under control financially. I'm more of like a Ron Paul Republican. I think we need to end the Federal Reserve. And I mean, free market, you say that like it sounds weird coming from a Republican about the minimum wage. And I do think there needs to be a minimum wage, but really free market practices, when unimpeded by the bureaucrats that are going to manipulate it, are the best practice. The problem is we don't have a free market. People talk about capitalism and how it's failed us. We don't have true capitalism. I've heard people use the term late stage capitalism, but what it is really is it's capitalism that's been controlled by the legislators and Congress and the other different elected officials in a way that we've really, the wealthiest people they have control over the way these things are being manipulated by having that access to the lawmakers. So if unlimited amounts of money can be spent on political campaigns and on political candidates, and obviously the wealthiest people are going to control the way that's the policies are being implemented. So that's got to stop, and that's got to change. We got to get the money out of politics For sure.
Yeah. Louisiana is has it's always been an energy state, and how can we protect existing jobs while creating new opportunities within Louisiana? When you're looking at this grand scheme of things, a lot of folk in the petrochemical industry, they're doing pretty good. That's one of the areas where we push. How can we protect those existing jobs while creating new opportunities throughout Louisiana?
Right. That's something that really, it varies from place to place. I know around me, like we're very rural. The whole district's rural. But if you want to get a really good paying job, a lot of people are going offshore, going, to work out of state. And that's not necessarily good for us. Sure, we're bringing back revenue and spending, but we do have to create some jobs here. And what I'm worried about and what I'm seeing is things like me and you talked about on the phone the other day when you invited me to this about like the AI data center that's being built. Things like that. I'm scared that we're seeing those kind of projects being pushed as an economic solution. But it's more like I gave a speech the other day and I talked about it and I compared it. I said that, one option is analogous to a heroin injection, and one option is analogous to eating healthy and dieting and exercising. So, and that would be, actual good economic practice, having the right policy in place and making the right decisions. And the other is, let's just build these huge data centers everywhere. Right now, data center construction is contributing 2% of GDP. If we lose 2% of GDP, if we lose that, we are definitionally in a recession. So data center construction is the only thing holding up the U.S. economy right now. And that bothers me because they're temporary jobs. And there may be over 1,000 jobs created during the construction phase, but what happens when it's done? When you got 10, 15 people working there. And then later on, the very AI data center we built to create these jobs takes jobs away because it automates those 10, 15 jobs that may be things like groundskeeping and security. Then what do we have? It's a temporary fix. And like I said, it's like a heroin injection. It feels good in the beginning. We're creating a lot of economic stimulation in the sense of consuming resources and land and a lot of building and construction. But in the long term, you're really not winning with that because it's going to replace more jobs. It's going to take away more jobs than it ever created. That's my take on it. I know you have a little bit different take with it. You like to see those jobs come to your parents.
No. I'll disclose. I come from the IT industry, and so I look at it a little different from that perspective. But I encourage open dialogue. And I like to listen to the other perspectives. So. It ain't about. Look, I'm not running for Congress. It's you running for Congress, and we want folk who can, ask some of these tough questions. And let's start talking about this thing from, there's so many things that are out there that those fringe items. You talked about it earlier, and we start focusing on the fringes, but it's not just those fringe issues. Because a lot of them have been resolved. It's the real things. It's the long-term strategic thinking that we start to really need to start putting into place and asking the tough questions. I don't have any problems with your questions. It makes me, your concerns, and I think they're valid. And I just don't want us saying, hey, we're going to stop this thing because of something real simple, and that's what we all up in a roar about. Like here in LA,
because there is genuine tax revenue being produced off of it. I can see that.
Right.
I understand that. But at the same time, we also have to look at whether, and I think when I talk to people, even in your parish, I've talked to some people who have concerns about that very project. And when I talk to them, the biggest concern from everybody is it was moved. It happened so quick under the cover of night. There were NDAs signed, and we didn't find out until after it was under construction. And they just feel like there should be more transparency.
Well, one of the things that I've seen happen on that, because when we data mine the data, looking at the comments that people are putting out there, that's one of the biggest legitimate issues, and that is government transparency, and really understanding the whole process. And and I think that's where a lot of the anxiety is coming at right now is, what do we do? But we're here now, and so the question is, do we just chop it off and say stop, or do we put in measures to make sure that these economic issues that you raised here, the issues that, be it growing another phase of it, and making sure that the public see the long-term objectives. Just make sure we're not going to bubble out of that 2% in a short period of time. We got time to ask those questions, but make a real good, informed, intelligent decision. I get the process. You say, if we sit back and just start saying no up front, we never get anything done. But, there are areas in the country, Birmingham, over in Virginia, and places like that, where the municipalities are putting in measures to force more transparency in these data centers as we move forward, to just make sure we're not going to run into a brick wall somewhere. And that's kind of where I lie. I think I concede and say the same thing. A lot of people, we have been hearing about the data centers all over the place. Just didn't know it was this close right here.
Right. And that's why, like, I'm in my parish, in my home parish of Washington Parish, I'm pushing for a full data center ban. I'm begging for that, and I'm hoping that my parish council hears me on that and helps us implement it. I've already wrote one for them and presented it to them, and I've spoke on behalf of it. And I don't want one in my parish, and I don't know anybody in my parish that wants one. Like, when I talk to people, we're all scared of it. We don't want it coming to our back door because we don't know where it's going to be. We don't know where the transmission lines are going to run and what kind of upgrades are going to be happening. We have a big solar farm that's trying to be built right in my backyard, basically not far from me. And people are pushing back against it because, once again, we're being told this was planned for 7 years and we're finding out about it whenever the deal's done. And I would like to never see one in Washington Parish, but I don't want to stop any other parish. If another parish wants one, the thing is, the best decisions that can be made for a community are the decisions that are made on the most local level. The closer you get to a local level, the better decisions can be made to represent that community. We need a smaller federal government and a bigger local government. And even in this case, we're talking about things that are being decided by the state, need to be decided more locally and have, parish control. But I think that people need to be informed and need to be given all the facts. And there certainly shouldn't be any NDAs signed. I don't agree with any public official signing an NDA to do with these. And I've heard over and over again, I've heard two lies. I've heard, NDAs are common practice. We do that all the time. It's not. This is new. This is something that's happened recently in the last couple of years. We've had all these NDAs signed by our public officials. That's not common practice, and it wasn't done prior in the past. Not the records I've looked through and tried to find examples, not nearly as aggressively and in mass. The other lie is that China is going to catch us if we don't do this. If we don't build data centers everywhere in every parish popping up like wild mushrooms, China's going to catch us and win this war on AI. And right now, the United States has 75% of the entire world's computing power when it comes to AI and data centers. We have 70, not versus China, 75% of the entire world. So China has 369 data centers right now that are running. The United States has 5,400 that are either under construction or operational. We're stomping them. And some people say that China, their data centers are larger. I see they're putting them in the ocean. That's pretty cool. That's a lot better than putting them on good farmland or good hunting land or what have you. But regardless, when you look at the actual computing power, when you look at what they can do, what they're capable of, we have 75% of the world's power in that sense, in that regard. So I think we're winning. I think we can slow down a little bit and afford to have some moratoriums and do some studies and see what we're getting into. we can proceed with caution. We don't need to proceed full steam ahead, cutting red tape and keeping it under the cover of NDAs, which is, I think, a pretty big violation of your duty as a public servant. If you're signing an NDA, that's literally you saying you're agreeing not to tell the public something that you're negotiating with a private company. That's pretty egregious. That doesn't sit right with me. You're a traitor to your position if you've done that.
Moving away from the data centers a little bit, you say that the American jobs should go to American workers.
Right.
How do we strengthen manufacturing throughout Northeast Louisiana? How do we get industry to coexist with communities and different things of that nature? Because when we look at it here in Alexandria, we've seen a lot of our large industry leave. We had a Air Force Base. We had quite a few large companies. And at one point in time, Alexandria was doing well. However, right now, we typically are on the top of the worst list throughout various things throughout the country. Alexandria, Monroe, we kind of run 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, depending on which report it is. So how do you say American jobs should go to American workers? How do we strengthen the manufacturing throughout Louisiana and different things of that nature? Because therein lying in the manufacturing area, you could have tons of jobs. But there again, you got this thing called automation coming online, and it could be taking away a lot of these jobs as well.
And automation is not necessarily a bad thing. I have a degree in industrial technology, and part of that is automated systems. And I've done a lot of my learning has been in automated systems, and that was always an argument I had whenever it was brought up in college. Even I've had people in college bring up to me that automation taking jobs, like talking about the downsides to it. But when you really look at it, analyze it, and I've used this example before, but I'll use it again. Some people may not have heard me use it, but I remember watching a video one time of a robotic system folding towels at a hotel, and somebody was complaining about that, saying that's taking jobs away. What are the humans going to do still? And that's ridiculous to me, because somebody's got to design that system. Somebody's got to build it, manufacture it, provide the materials for it, the mining for the materials that it's made into, or production otherwise, plastics, oil, whatever it is in it. Somebody's got to assemble it, deliver it. Somebody's got to set it up and train the person on it. There's somebody in sales selling that product. There's a plethora of jobs associated with that, and they're better jobs. What we want to create is a society and an economy where there's more output economically per human input. So you want less human input. Well, not less human input, the same amount of human input with more economic output. We want to have better production out of every area, including folding towels, and that robot can do it better than we can. And to be honest with you, the person doing it may not have even been an American. So you look at things like that, and it's actually not necessarily taking jobs away. It's stimulating the economy in a way where that goes towards, like, the price you're paying for the hotel. Part of that is factored in as the cost of folding those towels. It may be a small part of it, but it's part of it. And you have jobs created that are still stimulated by it, but they're better jobs somebody wants to do. They're not menial tasks. They're not tedious tasks. And that's what we need to work on getting away from. And that's one thing I see as I know you said get away from it, but I'm going to bring it back up with AI and the way it's progressing. We're seeing that what I believe really is, I want machines to do my dishes and fold my laundry so I have more time for reading and art. Let's put it that way. What we're seeing is the opposite. We're seeing the machines doing the art and the reading, giving us the cliff notes. We all do it. We check with AI. We get it to read documents for us, et cetera, whatever. We get it to make art, make a drawing of this, do that, put this poster together. We're having AI do the things that humans should be doing. And then we're given, by doing that, more time for the menial tasks, the tedious tasks, the things that are really just not beneficial to humanity. So which way are we going with this? Are we going to let the machine do the things that we want to do, and we do the thing so we have more time to do the things that we don't want to do? And just because the machine's better at it, because the machine is better at it, the machine's better at thinking than you or I am. So we're going to let the machine take over in that regard, and then what happens to us? That's where it comes into play. Where okay, maybe we need to approach this with a little bit more caution.
Right.
And that's one of those things that I see is like, I don't trust the people we have sitting at the table making these decisions. I'd like to be one of them for the future of all of us.
I hear you. So how do we secure the border?
The border is pretty secure right now. I think the Trump administration has done a good job securing the border. What we haven't done as good of a job at is getting out the people that flowed in when the border was not secure. So we had a pretty porous border during the Biden administration, and we had a lot of people make it in, and now we do need to get them out. I hate to be inhumane, but they need to get out. If you're not here legally, you don't need to be here. I think, and I say this as a conservative, there's not a lot of conservatives that care for Obama. I'm a conservative, and I don't really care for Obama. Obama did a better job with deportations. That's shameful to me because it's costing us more money per deportation right now. And we haven't had as many. If at the current rate we are deporting illegal immigrants, it's going to take 38 years to just get out the illegals that were let in over the previous terms. So that's not sustainable. It's not going to work. We have to figure out a solution. We have to streamline it in some way. And we still have to be able to give people due process and not be inhumane, but we need to make it more efficient. And I'm not sure what the solution is that. I'm not a Border Patrol agent. I know people that are in the business of doing that. But I know it needs to be handled better somehow because we don't have an unlimited amount of money to spend, but it does cost us money to have them here as well. So we have to figure something out there to streamline that.
Right. Monroe and Alexandria continue to experience some of the highest violent crime rates per capita in Louisiana, and also with cities our size throughout the country. What role do you think Congress can play to help these two cities out within Louisiana 5th improve public safety in our communities?
So as far as public safety, I think we're seeing a general degradation of the family unit. As far as a traditional family, we see, crime statistics go way up when the father's not present. And there's things that, and I hate to say it this way, but a lot of people try to legislate things that should be instead just advocated for. And me personally, I feel like by being a good Christian, spreading the message of Christ, leading others to him, and just doing the right thing, I feel like we can improve society as a whole. There's not, you can't just take everybody's gun away so we don't have shootings. No, we need to get down to the root of why there being shootings. That's not the solution. What we have to do is actually advocate for our own communities, be the change we want to see. I don't know if there's a legislative answer to that, seeing crime increase. Now, economically, we know statistically that when the economy is worse, crime goes up. That's a fact. So if we can help the economy with like the points we mentioned before, that's going to help with that. But what we really need to do to get a handle on that, in addition to fixing the economy, which is going to help statistically, will help with crime, is be an advocate for being a good model citizen and passing that along to others, and really just be the change you want to see. And that, you're asking me, I'm running for Congress. What can I do to fix that? There is no magic law you can pass to make everybody safer. I think that things like gun control and having flock cameras on every corner are not the right solution. Then we're no better than China. Then we're forcing people to be safe because you're forced by law. You have to be safe. Instead, we need to be a society that wants to be safer because we have better people in our communities, and we're handling these problems on the home front and the way we raise our kids and in the way we treat our neighbors and our friends and the way we come together as a community. And then law enforcement, of course, I'm all for giving law enforcement the resources they need to tackle that and handle it. I saw it. The National Guard went to Memphis. Memphis had a pretty big problem, and I was working up in Memphis, and I noticed it. I saw it with my own eyes that when the National Guard went up there to take care of some of the issues they were having, which I know that the crime was absolutely rampant and terrible, the National Guard did take care of that problem. You can visibly see it. Just you feel safer walking up in that street. There's not. I was pretty worried the first few times I went up there, just walking into a gas station, and I'm not sure exactly how that was accomplished, but I know it worked.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You often talk about protecting constitutional freedoms. Which freedoms concern you mostly today that are being impacted?
We need to protect our freedom of speech. We need to protect our freedom to bear arms. Mm-hmm. We need to protect all constitutional freedoms should be protected. But those are the two biggest ones. The two that protect all others are freedom of speech and freedom to bear arms.
So why? No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you good. Finish what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. So why speech?
Speech. I don't think anybody's asked me that. It's almost like a silly question. It's like, of course you see what's happening, and don't take that the wrong way. Don't take that the wrong way.
No. I'm drilling down on it because freedom of speech is what we do. Why we do what we do.
That's what we're doing here, right? It's freedom of speech.
Right.
You have the underdog candidate, the poorest candidate in the race here, talking to potential voters. Yeah, exactly. No, we need freedom of speech. Obviously, you don't want to end up like Europe, where you're having people arrested for social media posts. If you can't say something, are you really free? If you can't talk about problems, that's the number one way. That and stripping you of your right to bear arms. Those are the those are the two number one ways that your government is going to abuse you. And just after that, pass more abusive laws that they're going to abuse their power to further restrict your freedoms and your liberties. That's just what it's going to come down to. We have to protect our freedom of speech because we have to be able to tell people, hey, I don't agree with this politician or that politician or what's going on here. We can't be North Korea where we're getting, a state propaganda pumped into us, and that's all we have. We've got to be able to talk about and also be able to freely spread it. Social media is pretty important. That's one thing that worries me a lot, Mr. Jack, is I see all the bots and such, and I wonder how long is it going to be? I think AI traffic has already surpassed human traffic on the internet. So I worry about like bot accounts and things like that. They're getting good.
Oh,
they're getting really good. Sometimes it'll take me 2 or 3 messages when somebody messages me to figure out it's a bot.
Right.
It's like that's scary.
It is.
So how long is it going to, and I'll say this, it helps that I'm a congressional candidate because sometimes people will message me and they'll leave out that. And it's like, okay, you're messaging me, I'm running for Congress. Why aren't you stating the obvious here and talking about that? And I know right away it's a bot. But other than that, they're pretty convincing. We get calls and they're pretty convincing, So discerning reality is going to be an important topic pretty soon. And like I said, I see all these silly choices made by our representatives where they just really make bad choices with things that I feel like are common sense. What in the world are we going to do when it comes to things like this that are really going to threaten our freedoms? It's going to threaten freedom of speech when it comes to the fact that my speech can be throttled down versus somebody that's spending a few $1 million. Even if they're able to broadcast and advertise it, I should still be able to be accessed. And are we going to get to a point where with social media and things that because of the bot traffic and all of this, that you really just don't have a snowball's chance if you don't have the money to spend to get your word out? That's like I was saying, we've got this election cycle. The next one is probably not going to be free.
Yeah, you can definitely see over the last 8 election cycles, I would say, post President Obama, you can definitely see, a more invasive, and in each cycle it gets a little bit deeper and a little deeper and a little deeper, and it's like, and we spend a lot of time, just trying to maintain here. when we see these bots. And I would say, I would want to venture to say we might get rid of 50 of them a day sometimes. And I'm talking literally, and it's obvious when you can tell them, you can spot them left and right because they have no friends.
But they get better every day. And when they get better, when is it going to reach the point where we can't tell what's human or not?
Right.
At some point, they're going to be better at being human than we are. Right? I mean, we're training them. When we interact with them, we're training them. And the AI data centers we're building, I mean, all the things we're doing that are just, it's moving in that direction, but we have to come up with a way to protect ourselves from just being overly influenced by, it comes down to being influenced by the money. The person that can spend the most on the bot forms or what have you is going to get the most clicks. They're going to get the most shares. They're going to, have those views. And that's what it's going to come down to. And that, I see that as an infringement on our freedom of speech as well.
Right. Absolutely.
And then especially, we never want to be like Europe, where you can be arrested for a Facebook post because you said something about a politician that they didn't like, or that you said something about a minority or something that is inherently true that just because you said it and it hurt somebody's feelings, that now you have cops knocking on your door. We can't let our country get to that point ever.
Right. Let me ask you this about healthcare. Access to healthcare, it's a very important thing, and especially in our rural communities, and even Alexandria and Monroe are really considered rural nowadays. But there are pockets that are much more rural than us, and we're closing down or propose to close down some hospitals, medical centers, and different things of that nature. What's your thoughts on healthcare? How do we make sure that people who are living out in the rural areas have access to equitable healthcare services?
Right. And it is, I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 1 in 4 rural hospitals are in danger of closing the doors.
Right.
And then what do we do? What do we do to replace them? Because we have to have it. We're a rural district. Our district, I believe we have the biggest district, District 5.
Yeah, it's big.
It's huge. We have 24 parishes. I mean, it's big. And it's because we're so rural and we're so sparsely populated. And I like it like that. Don't get me wrong. I want to, I like my parish to stay rural, because that's one thing I talk about, like the data centers and stuff, is, that I enjoy living in the country. I like to keep it that way. But with our hospitals, we see that rural hospitals are, you got 1 in 4 that are in risk of closing the doors. And if you look at the cost, healthcare alone, people talk about insurance and things with healthcare and what the way that the insurance company rips you off or the hospital rips you off. It's really both. If you look at the actual cost of the service, we spend per capita twice as much as the next developed nation on healthcare per capita. So there's obviously a problem there with the actual way we operate and run our healthcare. It's not just the insurance. The insurance is a problem too, but it's also the way we actually provide the care. And one thing that I like to bring up, I wish I had the graph sitting in front of me. I got a graph I really like that shows administrative roles in hospitals versus the actual doctors and nurses. And the administrative roles have just ballooned exponentially. You have so many more administrators and the same number of, or just a few more doctors and nurses. So obviously that's going to bring costs up. And when you get to the bottom of it and you look at it, and you look at why are these administrative roles there? What purpose are they serving? And a lot of times it's, we have so many laws and so many things that are passed, and just a lot of times it's never looked at what long term. We make laws and make laws and make laws. We never take any away. There's a reason when you get down to the bottom of it, and I guarantee you it's the government. In some way, the government has failed us in creating all these additional roles, and we're not any better necessarily than the next best country that's providing those services for half the cost. So we have to look at how we can do that and get those costs down, not only for, like you said, they're set to shut the doors if we don't do something. So we have to get the cost down for the facility as well as the customers, as well as the individuals that are seeking care. And that's one thing I would look at, is the administrative costs.
All right. Let me ask you another question, and then we're going to get on out of here. You asked me about what time, and it's always dependent on how long your answers are. But I want to give you the opportunity. I always set aside this whole hour, but I want to give you the opportunity to speak what you have to say. Why should voters in November choose Austin Magee this November?
All right, you need to vote for me because I'm the only candidate in this race that is going to actually listen to you. I don't have any prior government experience other than working for the state of Louisiana as a survey tech. That's my only other government experience. That's a good thing. That's a selling point. We don't need people who were formerly state legislators who have already tried to pass laws that were you know what? I misspoke. I misspoke, Mr. Jack. I haven't looked at all the Democratic candidates, but on the Republican side, I'm the only Republican who has no government experience. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not wealthy in any way. I'm a regular blue collar guy. And I'm going to watch out for us. I'm looking out for us. Like I said, I can find middle ground with anybody. Even me and you, we've talked about it, and you know, we can find middle ground. We can talk about the 90% issues that we all agree on. That's what I'm going to fight for. I'm going to fight for us. I'm going to be somebody to represent the people. I am one of us. I am, you know, I'm the average Republican in District 5. That's who I am. I can represent you because I am one of you. And I'd be honored to have your vote. I'm a regular guy doing this on a budget. You're not going to see me on TV, so to speak, unless, you know, something changes. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to have the biggest billboards, but do your research, look into all of our stances and views, and please just look at what we all stand for and make your decision for the best candidate that's going to serve you the best. And I believe I can be that candidate because I'm one of us.
Okay. All right. Austin, I definitely want to thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and discussing your visions for Louisiana 5th Congressional District. We also want to thank everyone who tuned in, participated respectfully, and submitted questions. Again, UrbanCast remains committed to providing every qualified candidate. And right now, you guys are not qualified. You just announced that, hey, I'm running for Louisiana 5th. And we want to make sure that all that are out there that have said, hey, I'm planning to run, if we haven't contacted you, it's just because we don't know. And, you know, everyone hasn't went out and said, hey, I'm running. But if you see this post and you would like to have a conversation with UrbanCast and the folk who follow UrbanCast, just reach out to us and we'll see if we can get you on board. Irregardless of your political party affiliation, we want to have a respectful conversation. This community conversation has been powered by Acadian Ambulance. We also like to thank our community partners, Sadler's Towing, Long's Products, Nader's International Market, Elegance Beauty Supply, the Threadhead Embroidery, and Uncle Willie's Barbecue. I'm Jack, and thank you again for joining us for another edition of UrbanCast Let's Talk. Again, I want to go ahead and say we were a little late coming in, so if some folk got out here, got a little upset, it was mine. I was fascinated with the idea that Austin was coming in on Starlink. I guess that's a plug right there. This has been all.
It works great. Been powered by Starlink. We did it.
I see. But you know, again, we're signing off, and we want to say good evening to everyone. Austin, if you could just hang in there, I'm gonna hit this end stream, man.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all having me.
All right. You're welcome.
I heard about the ENT class through some of my friends. Went to a ride along, took the class, and then I was kind of like, well, here I am.
Getting to meet people that you've helped previously and seeing them on the street, or they've come by the station to say hello and thank you. It's just a rewarding experience. I would do it all over.
Searching for an unforgettable summer for your child? At Old Nell's Farm, campers spend days riding horses, learning horsemanship, caring for animals, making new friends, and enjoying real farm adventures. From beginners to horse lovers, our small camps offer a fun, safe, hands-on experience they'll talk about all year. All Mel's Farm, DeVille, Louisiana. Call 318-794-9533 to register. Spots are limited.
Hi, this is Pastor Roger L. Green Sr., pastor of the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. We're welcoming you to our worship services on Sunday morning. Sunday school begin at 8 a.m. Worship services begin at 9 a.m. Come and grow with us, a place of faith, family, and fellowship. We would love to have you. Come see us Sunday morning. We'll see you there.
Hey, did you know Long's Products is a family-owned janitorial supply with mops, brooms, trash bags, and they even have food service disposables, carry-out plates, and to-goes? Check us out.